I have a lot of books. It's clear as day. I was traveling to Indiana and we got stuck between layovers. And so I picked up a book from one of those convenience stores, way overpriced. But nevertheless, I got this book called The Guide by Peter Heller. If you are a conservative or typically like to fish, America, etc., this is your book to go. And man, I enjoyed this book quite a lot. Now, I did read some of the reviews of people who read Peter Heller's other novels. This is a sequel, but you can read it as if it was just straight, just a first book ever. But since this is a sequel, there is some references from the first book, but this does explain a lot of the past of what was going on. All right, why am I telling you this? Well, I enjoyed this read and actually got me on a kick to read more books. And that made me pick up a book called Where the Crawdad Sings. And now recently I just went and watched that movie. Beautiful, beautiful. I don't have the book with me at the moment, but I do highly recommend reading it if you're into that kind of stuff. It's more down south, so I read it with more of a southern accent and gave the interpretation of how I read. I'm very much into making the characters align and whatnot. Well, why am I starting this? I have a lot of books. I was at my parents' house cleaning and they had a box that said my books on there. And so I checked them out and man, there is a lot of books that I get grabbed as a kid that I either started reading or just never finished. I'm talking about series to just normal, typical books like this one. This is the same author that created the Maze Runner series. And I have the first Maze Runner book here, but I never actually finished reading this book because the movie came out and we just watched the movie. So my problem is I love watching movies. I'm a movie fanatic. And that when it comes down to books, I can't read books that are based off of movies because then I'm picturing the characters as the movie interpreted, and then there's parts of the movies that they added in or took it out. And so the book actually has more depths into some of the sequences or some of the filming, and it's good. But the problem is it's spoiled. The movie spoils what's happening in the book. That's the whole point of making a book into a movie. You're gonna get spoiled. So reading it doesn't feel like a new adventure, something going through, something happening. And that's what I realized as a kid. I would get books that I saw, which was from a movie. So here is The Maze Runner. Obviously, I read it. Then the next book I got, well, obviously I watched it. So I watched The Maze Runner and then I got the book and then I've never read it because spoiled it. I've already watched the movie, so there's no point of reading it. Then I got the Percy Jackson series as a kid. I did read the first book without seeing the movie, so I loved the book first, the first book. Then when it came out to theaters and I saw it and I was like, okay, I can see where this is good. When you're that young teenager kind of ordeal when you're watching the Percy Jackson series, you're kind of like, man, this is really good. Interpretation completely different from the book. That's what I like. But I see where a lot of the fans of the books went sour. Nonetheless, I still got the next copy when the next movie came out, but I just didn't read it. No creases, no nothing. But then I went back and I got the actual Percy Jackson book. This is their old cover. This is what it looked like. And I read this one. I read it. So the thing is, I think it happens to be because the movie was so different from the book. When I went and read The Sea of Monsters, it was nothing like the movie, that it felt more alive. Now the problem is, then I went and actually got the rest of the series, Titan's Curse, and then the next one, The Battle of a Labyrinth, and then the final book, which actually took me a while to get, so it's actually in a different copy. Don't yell at me, don't get mad, but it's The Last Olympian here. And I just didn't read any of them. I started reading the third book, no creases, no nothing, and never finished it. Never got to the fourth book, and never got to the fifth book. So where am I coming with all this? Where am I coming with all this? Well, it took me 2 days to read the guide, and it's almost 300 pages. Why am I waiting around and not reading these books that I had growing up as a kid? Is it because I already saw the movie and I just don't want to go back and read the series? Well, I've decided with the amount of books that I've gotten in here that maybe I should start a series of me going through all of my childhood books and finally getting them read out, the whole series, and just, or book, and just get it reviewed, right? Reviewed in my own taste. Because I have a lot of different types of series in here. The Scent series, Found, Sabotage, Scent, right? Book 1, Book 2, Book 3. But these are all children books, or what I would consider young adults, teenager to young adult books. So, am I reviewing this for myself? Well, I could review it for a new audience, or audience incoming, or people who are more inclined to read, because we're around technology a lot, and it's getting rough and more rough with less and less people buying books. So my generation, we tend to just completely devote books and avoid books, and we go straight into TV series, and that's why even The 100, that was on Netflix. People going straight into TV series or movies, they're gonna watch it and then they're gonna say, oh, this was based off a book. They're gonna buy the book and then they're just never gonna read it because they're watching the TV series. And they just don't want it spoiled, or they just don't feel like it's even worth reading it. So I think my thing is I kind of want to go through these books, rate them, read them, is it worth it, and see what it does to bring up an audience. And if it doesn't bring up any audience, so be it. Then it's for my own taste, so I know for the future of my children or the next generation, and understand, okay, this could work out. Anyway, so this is my first video. I hope that kind of inspired you to pick up books that you've probably picked up as a kid and just never read, or maybe it's based off of a TV series and you just don't feel like reading anymore because it's so popular that no one wants to read it, and just give it a few chapters and continue to read and see how things go. It's gonna be a tough challenge, but I think it'll bring up more of our generation to avoid technology and start advancing with our book series that we all gather because of popularity, and we just never read, really. Hopefully I called out somebody. If you're not saying amen, say ouch. Anyways, have a good day, guys.